All right, everybody, welcome back to Hodash Hockey. It's been a pretty crazy time with the NHL, with COVID and the extended break, the holidays, but we're finally back, and let's talk about the Kings and what's happened in the last 7 games. All right, so I'm going to do this video a little bit differently. I'm going to talk less about the games individually and more just overall how I feel like the team is doing because, we're kind of at a point in the season right now where, you're starting to see trends with the different teams. You're starting to kind of figure out who's for real, who's actually a contender, who's falling out of the race. And at the moment, the Kings are in a wild card spot or 1 point out. Obviously, a lot of teams have a lot of different games played because of postponements. So, I think at the moment it's pretty safe to say the Kings are competing right now. The Pacific, the West Division is very close and a very tight race between all the teams. And the Kings are keeping up, and that's what you want. And so, from the last time I made a video, we beat Florida 4-1. Since then, we played Carolina, a pretty bad loss against Carolina. The team just didn't have energy in that one. They go to Washington. I was kind of expecting to get blown up again. Garrett Sparks made his return to NHL hockey. If you haven't seen his interview after the game, it's pretty cool. It's about a minute long. I posted it on the Reddit if you want to check that. But it was awesome, awesome to see him win. And he's had a pretty crazy ride the past couple of years. And so the team really, came around him and able to beat one of the best teams in the league, at least one of the best players in the league, and keep him off the score sheet. So that was really nice. Then we had the long break for the holidays. Obviously, 3 games get postponed. That's probably going to be made up in the February break that was supposed to be for the Olympics. Unfortunately, we are not going to get NHL players in the Olympics. Don't want to get into that discussion, but it is unfortunate. When they returned, they played Vegas at home, and wasn't a great game. The Kings just looked flat. They looked like a team that hadn't played in a while, and that's something that the Kings kind of fall victim to quite a bit is, rust being a factor in the game. So not a good win for not a good game for the Kings, especially against, a division rival. Obviously, Vegas up at the top of the division, so it's not like you're losing points to a team like Edmonton, who you're kind of chasing, but a team that we did beat pretty well in the beginning of the year. So unfortunate to lose to Vegas. Then there was a nice win against Vancouver, ending their winning streak that started against the Kings. So, winning it in the shootout, not super convincing. You're giving them a point, and Vancouver now a team that is in that playoff race once again after it looked like they were going to be far out of it. Then they played Philly, very good game against Philly. Nashville, a loss against Nashville. The team had a lot of chances. They couldn't score, and they gave Nashville some power plays, and that was the difference. And how many times are we going to talk about special teams being a factor for why the Kings are losing? It was a factor against Nashville, and then the last game was against Detroit, 4-0 win. Peterson's first start in quite a long time. December 6th against Vancouver in that loss was the last time Cal played. And honestly, you can't blame the team for not going with him. He hasn't been super good this year, so it's really nice to see him get that shutout tonight. But Jonathan Quick's just been really good, and I expect Quick maybe not to be playing as much as he had right here, but Quick is the starter at the moment, and he gives the team the best chance to win. But now, I want to talk about kind of just overall the team performance. So since the last video, there's been a lot of moves. A lot of COVID has changed up the lineup quite a bit for certain stretches of the run. Alex Edler did get hurt, and it's going to be a long-term injury, which has opened up a spot for a couple different defensemen. One of the first things I want to talk about is Olli Mata, because Olli Mata still seems to be a scapegoat in the Kings community, and I don't get it because Olli Mata's been good this year. He's not making bad plays. He's not costing the team any games. He's not super offensive, but he's been doing perfectly fine, and I think it's very lazy for people to try and just keep piling on Olimata as if he's some kind of a problem for the team. And at the moment, he is a better defender than some of the other guys that we were throwing out there. A guy like Christian Wolanin, even Jacob Moverart got his NHL debut, which I was actually I never really expected to see it because he's been a prospect for a long time, but COVID brought him up, and it's just silly. I don't like that part of the Kings fan base. We've seen it a lot of the times in the past couple of years. It was Michael Amadio for a while. Olimata's been the guy for the last 2 years. Like I said, I think it's just lazy. Another scapegoat is Todd McLellan, and I'll probably post a screenshot of maybe a week ago I got into a little bit of some arguments online with a couple different people because there just seems to be a lot of Todd McLellan hate still, and I don't understand it because he's turned this team into a good team. Whether you think that or not, I guess I can't really make your mind up in that way, but in my opinion, what this team is doing right now is much better than where the team probably should be if you look at the results from the last 3 years. On paper, this team isn't super good. Todd McLellan is able to get guys like Blake Lizotte, who's had just a monster run the past few weeks. He's really gotten a lot more confident. He took over games. I mean, the game against Philly, he took over that game along with Brendan Lemieux and Arthur Kaliev. That's because of the style of game that the Kings are playing right now, and that's all Todd McLellan. Now, special teams, 100% that needs to have work. Marco Sturm is the guy who gets thrown on the bus with that. I'm not going to go out of my way to protect Marco Sturm like I will the other people that fans like to throw under the bus, but special teams is a problem. But the way that the team is playing right now, the system that they're doing, and honestly, the results that the Kings are getting, Jim Fox made a comment late in the game tonight against Detroit that I really agree with. And, it's that I think that the Kings overall this season, I'm happy with the way they've played. I'm happy with the system. I think guys are stepping up. You look at a guy like Adrian Kempe, who scored his 15th goal. I mean, he's going to smash his goal record. He's really gotten away from being that inconsistent player, and he's been our best goal scoring threat this whole season. The team has gotten better. They've played better, and it's because of the coaching style that he has. I also really like what Tom McLellan's doing with the young guys. Arthur Kaliev is another guy I've talked a lot about how much I like him. And, people can look at the goals and say, well, Kaliev's supposed to be this sniper. He scored 50 goals in juniors. How come he only has 6 goals? It's because he's developing still. This is his first year in the NHL, and he's playing on a very grinding, forechecking line, and that's on purpose. That's because they're trying to make Arthur Kaliev an overall well-rounded offensive player, and he's shown it. He's grown so much from the beginning where he was just a non-factor in games, and you're kind of hoping, almost like a Martin Ferk right now, where you're just hoping that he gets a shot and gets open and someone can find him. But he's turned into a guy who's back-checking, and he's back-checking very well. He's winning board battles. He's strong on the puck. He's making some really good passes, too. In the Philly game, he had a really nice pass to set up Brendan Lemieux for a goal. He's getting better, and that's the thing with rookies. And I see a lot of people talking about guys maybe in OHL that are putting up goals. Martin Ferk, for example. Yeah, he's putting up a lot of points in the AHL. I just don't think he's a guy who the Kings want to be playing. Obviously, he's playing right now with Iafallo out with COVID, but you can't be in the NHL as a one-dimensional player anymore. And with Arthur Kaliev, he has that shot. That's something that some guys have and some guys don't, and it doesn't really go away. That's a skill that he's always going to possess, but this season so far, he's been just developing the other parts of his game to make him a well-rounded player, and it's the reason that he's stayed in the lineup. And a guy like Gabe Vilardi isn't, because Gabe Vilardi wasn't taking the time that he was given to work on his deficiencies, and so I like what Kaliev's doing. I like how he's turning into a more well-rounded player. He's really a factor on that third line. That's probably been the best line for the Kings for the last, you know, 5-10 games. Talking about some of the other young guys, Alex Turcotte got a shot in the NHL. He's out now again, and I think they brought Alex Turcotte up almost to kind of cover for when Quentin Byfield's going to come back. I do think he will be on the NHL team within the next week or two because he is ready and we have spots for him available. And Alex Turcotte, he definitely needs more time in the AHL. But what I really liked from Turcotte, and probably the biggest thing that I dislike about Gabe Vilardi, and one of the reasons I'm kind of at the point where I've given up on Gabe Vilardi. I mean, it's a little mean to say, but Gabe Vilardi's had a lot of chances. He's had games where he's had a lot of time on ice. He's had other games where he was a fourth line player, and he never took advantage of the ice time to prove himself, or like I said, to work on parts of his game. Whereas Alex Turcotte, they put him out there. He was going to get limited ice time. He knew that, but every shift he had, he was going 110%. And that's something that as a young player, you should be doing. If you get, if you're only going to get 8 minutes of ice time, you better play those 8 minutes of ice time with the same energy you would if you were getting 15 minutes. And Alex Turcotte did that. Like I said, I think overall he's not ready for the NHL yet, and I think he should go back to the AHL, develop a little bit more. But it's something that, as a fan of the team and wanting guys like Alex Turcotte to become good players in the future, it's just a mentality thing that I think is really going to help Turcotte. And going back to that point real quick of, being a well-rounded player and not just being a goal-scoring threat like a Martin Frk, I explained how Arthur Kaliev is working on the boards, and he's getting stronger on the boards. He's making smart plays, in the defensive end, in the neutral zone, in the offensive zone. And, you can look at a guy like Adrian Kempe too, where Kempe is leading the team right now in goals. He's our most dangerous offensive player at the moment. Obviously, the speed helps. He's got a good shot, but the reason that he is getting the ice time he is, the reason I think he's being as consistent as he is because he does all the other stuff as well. He's a great forechecker. He makes the smart little passes in the offensive zone. He's built a bigger game than just offense, and that's really what I want to see from this team. And that's why, I feel like guys like Tkachuk, guys like Martin Frk, just aren't getting the chance in the NHL because they don't fit the Kings system. The Kings system relies on hard work, offensive aggression, and if you can't do that, you're not going to be making the team. And we saw it. We saw it with Tkachuk. I see a lot of people online saying, "How come he's not playing?" I don't know if they didn't see when he was playing in the NHL, but it wasn't. He wasn't doing much. He was kind of lost. He wasn't getting involved in the play, and it's because his skill set doesn't match the Kings style. And if I know people are going to say, "Well, how come the Kings don't become more of an offensive team?" It's not that easy. If you want to be just kind of a purely offensive skill team, you need a lineup full of offensive stars. You need Kucherovs and Stamkos and Braden Points on your team to have that kind of identity. Or, Toronto with Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Nylander. The Kings, if you talk about pure skill, maybe it's Arvidsson, and even then, Arvidsson's a very hardworking, guy. He forechecks really well. There's not many pure skill players on the team, and that's one, because it's hard to get those kind of players, and two, because, it's just not the identity of the Kings. It wasn't the identity of the Kings when they were doing well and winning Stanley Cups, and because of that, the team drafted players in that kind of physical, strong, bigger player style, and even though the team has tried to change it throughout the years, and you look at the last couple of drafts and you see more smaller guys, faster, skilled guys, you're not going to change the team around, especially when you have Anze Kopitar, Drew Doughty as, the two main guys on the team still to this day. They set the tone, and they're big, strong, physical guys, play good defense before any of that skill shows up in their game. And so, I understand why people can maybe get frustrated that certain guys aren't getting the chance or certain young guys aren't getting the chance. But at the moment, the Kings are in a playoff race, and the way that they're winning is by outworking teams. And if you're not going to be able to play that hockey game, you're not going to get a chance. So, as I mentioned, the Kings have had a pretty hectic schedule since my last video. Now we're getting back into that regular grind, and we're going to finish the homestand with a couple of games against New York and Pittsburgh. Those are going to be two pretty high skill teams. So, those are games that the Kings are going to have to win, again, by playing their style of hockey, being aggressive on the forecheck. One thing I want to mention about the Nashville game is that was a physical game. Nashville is a physical team. That's why they've, become a really hot team, one of the best in the Western Conference. And, the Kings, they got beat in that game, not just by the score, but they got beat in the style of play too. Nashville was a little bit more physical. Yeah, we have guys like Brendan Lemieux who stood up, had a fight, but it's that's a game that the Kings are going to need to be able to match a team like Nashville going forward, because as I've been mentioning, that is going to be the identity of the Kings if they want to be a contending team. And that's one of the things I do like about some of the guys on the team. Adrian Kempe is a perfect example where he's leading the team in goals, but he's also a pretty physical player. He's not really going to fight a lot of the time, but he'll make hits. He'll take runs at guys, and you see that all the way down the lineup. And that's what I like from the team, and that's why I'm talking about how Arthur Kaliev is kind of developing more that physical game too, because if the Kings want to win games like Nashville, they're going to have to be physical all throughout the lineup. But we will see what happens going forward in the future. 2 games against Eastern Conference teams. Those are games that the Kings have been doing pretty well in. The Pittsburgh game is going to be pretty emotional with the return of Jeff Carter. That's going to be nice to see what the team does for him, because he's such a pivotal part of this franchise. I mean, really, getting Carter at the deadline was kind of the turning point for the organization, and it's really what led to the Kings winning 2 Stanley Cups. So it'll be nice to see him back. But then after that, we finally get some more, I would say, easier Pacific Division matchups. Seattle's a game that we should win. It'll be our first time seeing Seattle, so that'll be nice. And, San Jose, their rival, they usually do pretty well against us, but they're a team that we should be better than right now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. After that, we're going to go on a pretty long road trip to the East Coast. I'm excited for that. I'll be attending a couple of the games. I'm not sure how many, probably 3, but so I'll definitely make sure to get a video out before that road trip. And if you want to be around for it, definitely stick around, subscribe, like the video, do all that stuff. And I know I said it last video that the schedule is going to be more on track, but I wasn't really expecting a long COVID break and all the stuff like that. So now we're back on track. The games are going to come pretty regularly, and the videos will as well. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and I will see you next time.